Running a brokerage is hard work, so whether you're focused on building your own sales pipeline, hiring the best agents, leveling up your team's production, or protecting the culture you've built, you're in the right place. Real estate brings the challenges, and we share the solution. Welcome to the show dedicated to broker entrepreneurs. Welcome to the Brokerpreneur Podcast. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Brokerpreneur Podcast. I'm Dr. Ben Spears, the Doctor of Flow. I'm here with the big guy as usual, Matt. How's it going? How you doing?
Fantastic. You know I'm doing fantastic.
You know you're fantastic.
I am fantastic.
It's always fantastic for some reason. Well, I want to make sure that we go ahead and get our guest on here and just introduce her, and so she can join the conversation. Before I do that, though, guys, wherever you're listening to this, whether it be on your favorite podcast platform or you're on the website, make sure you hit that follow button, that subscribe button. Go check us out at brokerpreneurpodcast.com and see all the cool things that we have to grow your brokerage. Now, without further ado, let's bring out our guest. We have Tracy Enos, who is a LinkedIn expert. She's one of 1,400 people on the LinkedIn advisory board, which is absolutely mind-blowing, right? Because how many people are on LinkedIn? Like
700,
a zillion, something like that. And she'll know the exact number. We'll ask her that. But published author, mom of 4. She likes the Raiders. She's got some pups that she's in love with as well. Let's go ahead and bring her on. Tracy, how are you doing?
Hi, Ben. Hi, Matt. I'm really good today. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. We love you being here. We're excited, especially talking about LinkedIn, right? That's a great place for brokers that are focusing on growing their brokerage, where they need to be paying attention to. So we're going to dig into that a little bit, right, Ben?
Yep, that's exactly right. So, I always start these interviews, saying, okay, I want to know where this came from, right? And then I always try and guess first, and then I see if I'm right. Right. So my guess is, you were like 8 years old, all of a sudden, like the power went out. You went down to the basement where the breaker was. You flipped the breaker, power came back on. You're like, you know what? I think I'm going to be a LinkedIn expert when I grow up.
I don't think that's what happened.
No, don't think that's how it happened.
Okay, that wasn't close. All right. Well, let's hear how it really happened.
No, actually, it came around by accident. So I have a real estate and mortgage background, real estate broker here in Missouri. I still have my broker's license, just inactive. So in 2008, I got laid off by National City Bank. I lived in Branson at the time. And we had like 18 months of inventory because it's primarily a second home market, or at least it was at that time. And then National City Bank, they got bought out by PNC Mortgage, because National City wasn't one of the banks that got bailed out by the government. And so PNC Mortgage fired all of us, every single one of us. And so I had nowhere to go. I didn't have a job. So I had to move back up here to Kansas City the following year because I couldn't find a job down there. And I worked in the foreclosure market up here. So I worked for a brokerage that did, I think 85% of our transactions were all Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac foreclosures in the city. So, but then things transpired and she closed shop and moved us over to Keller Williams and wanted me to be her buyer's agent, but then double dip. So I wasn't going to make any money paying brokers fees, to Keller Williams and then her too. I'm like, no, you can go fly a kite. So, and then of course, being back then, if you, just because I had, I don't know how many years at that point in the business, I didn't have a book of business.
Right.
And so it was like being brand new, right? Yep. Nobody knew me up here. Right. And so I wasn't going to go back down to Branson because it was still kind of a bad situation, right? Second home market. So, and lenders weren't really lending on second homes, not quite at that point anyway. So, and so I kind of dabbled in a few things and I found my next job on LinkedIn, and it was a job doing promotions at Sam's Club and Costco's for a nutrition company. And within 2 months, I went from being a demo person to being field regional manager for 7 states and 83 stores.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
So, yeah. And then, they partnered with a very large pharmaceutical company, blew through all their investment money in 3 months in the investment, or the pharmaceutical company said, you guys need to make some big changes. And so they laid off everybody in the field. So there I was again, 4 years later, from 2008 to 2012, laid off for the second time in 4 years. Oh, yay. And so, yeah. So the summer before, we had a family reunion, my parents' 60th wedding anniversary, and my sister Terry, she was the artist of the family, and I was dabbling. I had a side hustle back then, but I really wasn't getting paid for it. I was just kind of doing some stuff for people for free or consulting for free. And I was working on my Facebook business page, and I was showing her some of my graphic arts and stuff like that. And she told me that I needed to start a business. And so my sister has since passed away. She had terminal brain cancer.
Oh, I'm
And
sorry.
so it was like 6 or 7 months later that they asked me to come home because she was losing her short-term memory, and she got her glass of wine and I got my Moscow Mule, and we went outside and had a very good conversation. And she says, you need to start your agency now.
Yeah.
And I did. I took her advice. Excuse me. But it didn't start out doing LinkedIn, of course.
Right.
I was doing like the digital marketing, like the reputation management, that we did like the
Okay.
chiropractors and the, the local businesses, and not just chiropractors, but, service businesses, by the way,
Yeah.
salons and such, and SEO, and, getting them into the, the Google pack. And back then it was like the 5-pack or the 3-pack. And I hated every minute of it. but the problem is that I couldn't get business in my own backyard here in Kansas City. I go to BNI meetings or chamber meetings or other networking meetings, and I just wasn't getting any clients. I got one client. It was a referral from somebody I met on LinkedIn, and he was a startup biotech company here in Kansas City.
Oh, cool.
And that's how it started. I did his LinkedIn profile. I rewrote his LinkedIn profile. And that's when the actual light bulb went on.
Not when the power went out.
The power went on. And I went to LinkedIn to find my clients. And I started getting clients all over the US, and then Canada, and then Australia, then UK, Germany, Holland, you name it. So Israel, that was a nice one. So it was really cool. And that's the dawn of the business I have today.
I love it.
Yeah, that is so cool. And all of that translates so well into real estate brokers.
It does.
Right.
Absolutely.
So, our audience, I have to imagine, right. And Tracy was kind enough, to offer some tips to myself and Matt, as far as our LinkedIn profile as well. I have to imagine that, gosh, there's probably not one broker out there, maybe unless they work with Tracy, that just has an absolute perfect,
Absolutely.
LinkedIn presence and profile. And, and I would love to kind of pick your brain, while you're on here of, gosh, if someone just wanted, just, said, I'm going to log on to my LinkedIn, I'm going to do something today.
Right.
Right. Like, what are some of the more common mistakes that you see that maybe, some of these brokers could say, well, let me go make sure I'm not doing that.
What makes it 1% better?
There's several things. But the most important one is that foundation work and that presence on LinkedIn, whether that's your personal profile or your company page. And that's what people see, right? So I say 99% of your activities on LinkedIn is tied to your personal profile. Everything that you do, whether you're sending a connection request to somebody, or you're posting content, or you're engaging with other people's content, or you're writing articles, or you're engaging with company page posts, or groups or whatnot, that's all tied to your personal profile. And that's the one thing that everybody gets wrong.
Right.
I'm still seeing this. Like, I've been on LinkedIn since 2009, and I've seen LinkedIn make a lot of changes over the years, and LinkedIn is starting to get smarter. They're starting to realize, like, us marketers have been using our profiles for years, but now they're getting smart, and they're like, you know what? There's something to this thing, So, it's all about perception, right? Perception. Do I like you? Do I trust you? Can you help me? Can you solve my problem? Can you help me fill my ultimate desire? And all that starts with the profile. So I lost a 6-figure opportunity. Even at one point in time, my profile sucked because I was talking to him on the phone, and then he offered me a potential 6-figure opportunity with his group of people and working with them on LinkedIn. And then he went to my profile, and it didn't really speak to what I was telling him over the phone. And so I lost the opportunity.
Oh,
That's
wow.
when the light bulb went on for me. It was like,
Yeah.
wow, it's really about the profile. And that's what I tout all the time. Starts there first, right? So and there's other things. You got to have a goal for LinkedIn. Don't just write your profile for the sake of writing it like it's your resume, right?
Yeah.
Have a goal. Sit down and figure out why you're on LinkedIn. Why are you using LinkedIn, right? So your goals or business objectives, and then figure out who it is that you want to work with on LinkedIn. Is it finding clients or new customers? Is it referral partners? Is it joint venture partners? Are you just on there because you're bored?
Right.
I mean, just when you figure that out, then you start, crafting a great profile with the content in it. And it, the profile, I have this acronym called HEAT. Does your profile bring the heat? Right. And often this is a cold touch. Somebody's first seeing your profile, right? So your profile, H meaning human. What I'm still seeing is a lot of the profile is still third person. It's very cold. There's no human to it, right?
Yeah.
So the human side is tell your story a little bit, right? So, like I just shared a story with you about, my how I got to where I was today doing the LinkedIn stuff. You might want to write, that's my expertise. You might want to write something about that in your about summary. How did you get to that? Right. The human side, people often forget the certain sections like the volunteer work or organizations or publications or projects that you're particularly proud of. Right. And
Yeah.
including recommendations. LinkedIn even said this, we knew it a long time ago, but LinkedIn only, just probably 2-3 years ago, finally got on the bandwagon and said, you know what, you need at least 10 recommendations with your keywords in it. And then LinkedIn is going to start favoring you more in organic search. Because after all, LinkedIn is a search engine.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, and so, people don't think to go get the recommendations. That's kind of like your Google reviews, guys, right? On your, for your brokerage or
Yep.
whatever. You
Right,
need those
absolutely.
you need those on LinkedIn. And, nowadays, especially the younger generation, they're doing everything online, right? And so what are they going to do? They're going to go do their due diligence, and they're going to look at your website. They're going to look at your LinkedIn company page. They're going to look at the top people in their profiles, are going to look, and they're going to read them, right?
Mhm.
So it should definitely have the human to you with those recommendations. And then stands for expertise. So are you a generalist in your brokerage, or do you have a certain expertise? Are you more of the commercial side of things? Are
Right.
you more, a luxury residential? Are you second home market? So, in tropical areas. I mean, what is your expertise, right? So you don't want to be everything to everybody. You want to be one thing to one buddy, right? One person or one vertical. We call that a vertical, right? But not just your expertise, it expands into the authority, right? So how do you separate yourself from everybody else on LinkedIn? Every other, let's say, luxury home, agent, right? How are you different? Right. So you got to have a finger on your competition, most definitely. And you got to know what they're doing, because people will compare you. Right. And they want to know how you're different. What do you do that they don't do? Or what do you do? And do you do it better than them? Right. Or do you offer things that they don't?
Yeah.
Right. That's what people want to know. Right. And then last, the T is the trust. Right. And so that trust comes with all those other things I just mentioned. Right. So do I trust you? Your profile needs to share who is it that you work with? How do you work with them? Right. Or what you do, how do you work with them, how you're different. And then of course you've got your outcomes, right? People have worked with you. So you got your recommendations in there, right? That seems to be perceived trust. Right.
Yeah.
And then we all know we like to work with people that we know, like, and trust.
Yep.
Right.
Absolutely.
So back a year, I can't remember what year they got rid of it, but they used to have an interest section in the profile. And we loved it because we used it, as a place to put our keywords so that we would, get found organically more often. Right. But people would write run-on sentences. I like to golf and fish and ride my horses. But it wasn't meant to be that, because they were clickable links and it was like a search with that link. So we use it as keywords. But this is what I used to tell people way back then. So if you were, let's say, for example, you were searching for an estate attorney in Kansas City, right? And you're going through LinkedIn and you found 2 Cadillacs, right? They seem to be, oranges to oranges. They're not apples, but they were the same. And you were going through their profile and reading it. And then you come to find out that attorney A likes to golf. Well, just so happens you like to golf, right? So which one are you more likely going to call first?
Right.
The guy that likes the golf, because that is
Familiar.
It's familiar, it's a talking point, it lowers the wall a little bit, right?
Right.
And then it's the likability. Oh, I trust you and like you because you like to play golf. I don't know if you're really good at what you do, but you play golf.
Right.
Right. So
Right.
So, and that's where that really starts, is that too. And that actually transfers over to the company page as well. Company pages don't have a lot of those sections to do that. However, companies or brokers can actually use the company page in a way that they're not using them. Because I noticed if I went to Remax, I think Matt and I went and did a Remax search real quick, didn't we? And we found that it was Remax. And then we found that people, when they put their work experience, they're going to attach it to the company page, right? And so as they work for the company. And so what the companies can do is start putting up some human content, not just talk about the market where it's at right now or whatever, right? And start, engaging with your agents and getting them to be your biggest cheerleaders for your brokerage.
Hey, Dr. Ben here. I hope you're enjoying this episode. If sometimes you feel overloaded or alone when it comes to building your brokerage, I want you to know that we are here for you. There's so much support available to agents, but hardly any dedicated to brokers. I want to personally invite you to schedule a complimentary strategy call where Matt will help you build a 3-step profitability plan that will immediately produce results. This is not a sales pitch. There's no obligation. Simply click the link in the description below. Now let's get back to the show.
Yeah, user generated content. We talk about user generated content all the time. So you hit on a whole bunch of really good stuff there. There's one point that when we were talking about this originally, we see a lot of brokers that want to focus on recruiting and want to be looked at as the broker in their office, want to be the one that's actually running the office, and that's how they want people to look at them. But as soon as you go to their profile, it's all about their sales. And it's all about the homes that they've sold. So it's almost like there's a competition in their profile, right? You probably see that with a lot of the people that you help, right? The message doesn't have continuity across all of that. How does somebody kind of get past that? Not just a real estate broker, but somebody in general. How do they make sure that the message that they're putting out there? I love the HEAT acronym. I think that's it. I think that probably solves a lot of that problem. But how do they make sure that they're not wanting one thing to happen and wanting to connect with people one way from the person that has the profile to the person that's looking at the profile? How do they make sure they have that continuity?
I think I mentioned it already. It's the foundation work. It's sitting down and identifying, first of all, what your goals are, right? So let's say, for example, you wanted to build up a referral base. Okay. So as an agent, that could be, especially with the market right now, you're not really going to find the consumer, the buyer or the seller on LinkedIn. You might, but you're more looking for the referral partner, the business to business.
Right.
So you need to sit down and define who that is.
Yep.
Right. And then once you define who that is, what is it that they want? Why would they partner with you? What are some of the pain points that they have that you could help solve for them? Right. And think about that. Think about the keywords. What are they typing into the search bar to find somebody like you to help them with their problem? Right. Yeah. So you got to do the back end work first. And I think what the biggest mistake that folks make is they just throw up anything on that profile with really, any marketing campaign needs that foundation work, right? You got to identify the vertical, the who, the what, the how. What are their problems? Who have they tried in the past? What did they like about it? What didn't they like about it? What keeps them up at night? You got to ask them, not just demographic questions, but psychographic questions, right? Who are
Yeah.
the influencers that they follow? What publications do they read? You really got to know your avatar.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
no, absolutely love that. Now, a lot of our listeners, I'd say, 99.999% of them, recruiting is a huge focus, right? They really want to connect with agents. They really want them to, maybe give them a shot at an interview and just come learn a little bit more about their brokerage. Obviously, jobs. I mean, you've talked about, getting a job already on LinkedIn. Jobs, recruiting, finding positions, finding people for positions, is huge on LinkedIn. If I'm a real estate broker, right, and I'm listening, what are some things that you would recommend, that I do to connect with agents in my marketplace, or build rapport, build relationships, or even just, flat out recruit them for an interview? Like, what does that look like?
Well, they don't want to just get an interview anybody that's has their license, right? So they should look at the agents that they have in their office currently.
Mhm.
And what do those agents have? What do they possess that they want more of? Right. And I
Right.
think you start there. So that's how you define the types of people that you want to recruit. Right.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah,
build
yeah.
you build an agency with a bunch of successful agents, wanting, not
Right.
somebody who just takes up space at a desk. You want somebody that's
Yeah.
closing transactions, right?
Right.
So,
Yeah,
because at the end of the day, the agents represent your brokerage. They do.
Yeah,
So-
completely agree with everything you just said. Let's say I have that avatar and I'm like, okay, I know what the agent inside my office looks like. How do I go and find that person, or look for that person on LinkedIn, as far as, matching that avatar? What would, if I said, they're hardworking and, very customer focused, and they're 5'8" and 41 years old. Right, I'm just talking about me. If I have that avatar and I know, yes, this is what I'm looking for. Right. A lot of times, a broker is just kind of scared to reach out and even introduce themselves, right? Because they feel like, oh, well, the agent knows I'm trying to recruit them or something. Where really they're just trying to build that connection,
Build rapport,
build that relationship. And so I was just curious if you had any strategies that in connecting, because what we see a lot, what we hear a lot is, oh, I'll just let a bot do it, and then the bot just goes and sends out a million different. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So we're completely like, no, don't do that.
Right.
So that's what I'm kind of looking for is.
Well, I think that's where the demographics come in. So we need to find the demographics, because you're not going to know until you actually start talking or having a conversation with that person. But the demographics is the place to start. So LinkedIn has a tool called Sales Navigator. It's a paid product. I'm grandfathered in. I've had it since 2013, and it's an amazing tool. And it has 33 different filters that you can start going in and defining who it is that you want to reach out to in there. And it's amazing. You can build lead lists. You can really define searches. You can save those searches, and LinkedIn will actually send you new leads based off of that saved search to your actual email inbox, not just in LinkedIn, right?
Yeah.
And going and then once you find that right person using those filters, start a conversation. Do not sell. That is the next thing that I see people doing, is they want to vomit their opportunity all over somebody without getting to know them first.
Yeah.
Right. And that's still being done. And it really floors me that LinkedIn's been around since what, 2002? Or
We hear you. They're not just doing it on LinkedIn, by the way.
They're doing everywhere else
all
too,
over the
right.
place. Yeah.
Yeah, like, oh, and you know what? People aren't dumb. They know why you're connecting with them on LinkedIn. They get it. You know what? They know that you've got something to sell at some point.
Yeah.
Right.
So
So
it absolutely turns them 100% absolutely turns them off, and has the opposite effect whenever people do that. It actually puts up
absolutely
a barrier
does.
instead of breaking one down completely. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah, there was a wall there anyway. Now the wall just got even higher and higher and
Got
thicker.
a little thicker.
Yeah,
Right?
that's exactly right.
So yeah, so I mean, look, this is how we do it when we approach somebody. is first we go in and we find some sort of pattern interrupt. All right. So that could mean I'm not just going to go and I might send out 100 connection requests over the week, but not everybody's going to be an ideal client, right? Or customer, because your searches are only as good as what somebody puts in their profile, right? And some of these profiles don't have a lot of information, right? So you want to find some sort of pattern interrupt. Do what everybody else is not doing, right? So which is go in and find something that you like about them. And that doesn't necessarily have to be on LinkedIn. So go to their profile, look at their company page, go look at their website, go look at their other social media if you can find it. Go, if they've been mentioned in an article or anything like that, go look at their posts and their content, right? And then go find something and say, this is why I want to connect with you, and be genuine about it, right? And then start a conversation and ask a question about them. And why do we do that? Because people like to talk about themselves.
That's right.
Right. Yep. And so that's where you start breaking down the barrier, right? And then, depending on how the conversation goes, then and only then can you say, hey, look, I'd like to talk to you. Can we get on a 15-minute short discovery call? Right? I want to get to know you a little bit better because I like to get to know my connections. Again, they know what your ultimate goal is at some point, right?
Yeah.
You're not dumb. So with the progression of that conversation, you can find out more about that person and ideally decide at that point whether they're going to be a good contact or a good opportunity for you to reach out to them and invite them to, at that point, like a conversation or an interview to come work with your brokerage, whether it's a new agent or whether that is somebody who's seasoned and is looking for a change.
Yeah, that's such a good example. And the example, what you're basically saying is you wouldn't walk up to somebody in a coffee shop and just start talking about yourself, right? You wouldn't just walk up and just say, oh, hi, I'm Matt, and this is where I went to school, and this is what I did, and I've got a company, and my company's great, and you should come work for my company. That would literally turn off somebody in a coffee shop. So if you wouldn't do it in a coffee shop, why in the hell would you do it online? And yet people do it all the time.
Because they've been taught that they can do this mass marketing, and I call that spray and pray.
Right.
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 Or I call it also hope marketing. I go and throw a bunch of spaghetti at the wall and hope that it sticks, right?
Yeah.
And so I also call that drive-through marketing. Why do we go to drive-through, right? Fast food, that drive-through fast food marketing, right? So it doesn't work, people. It doesn't. Now you'll have some people that go, well, I got a big deal because I did that. Okay. You might find some low-hanging fruit, but it is not a sustainable business strategy that's going to be long-term revenue.
And the other thing that it does is it has the opposite effect with a lot of people. You have one good result when you do it like that, but you have a whole bunch of other bad results. And people remember those bad results, right? The restaurant business has a 311 rule, right? The 311 rule is if somebody loves a restaurant, they'll go out and tell 3 people about it. If they have a bad experience or bad service or bad food in a restaurant, they'll go tell 11 people. The same thing happens online. When they will turn people away, just like you and Ben were talking about that wall getting thicker a minute ago. That's exactly what that does whenever it starts out that way. So that's a fantastic point. We could continue talking about this forever. I think we've got to have her. I know, right? We've got to have you come back on, Tracy, if that's acceptable to you.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. We'll have a part 1, then we'll have a part 2. I like it.
I already know what we can talk about at part 2.
Oh, go ahead and tell me so we can tease us
a little bit.
Yeah. So, I think a lot of realtors don't feel that they can use LinkedIn, right? But for business, and they absolutely 100% can. And it's about building your vendor list or your referral list. And that's how you use LinkedIn.
business ecosystem, 100% people should have that. I'll tell you what we could probably do is absolutely, we could talk about that from a broker standpoint. We should probably have you come on to Brokers Open podcast as well,
Yep.
or even come into one of the masterminds that we've got and talk a little bit about that one-on-one specific for our clients. So, because I know we can tell by just, hearing you talk about it, there's so much more value that you have there that would be able to help people out. And we want to share as much of that as we can. So,
can I wear my Raiders hat?
absolutely. We love it. We'd be upset if you didn't.
I don't know. Maybe I'm a little ashamed of them right now. But
No, either you're a fan or you're not.
That's exactly right.
And there's no
I'm
fair
a
weather
fan.
fan.
I don't bandwagon. So
There you
been a
go.
fan since I was 9 years old. So
Yeah,
I love it. I love it. Well, I have to ask because our listeners, they're driving in their car or whatever, and they're like, okay, I like what I'm hearing. How can you probably have a LinkedIn profile or something? We'll see. How can our listeners get in touch with you, connect with you, learn more about what you do? And then, of course, anything you say, I'm going to put it in the description right below this video.
sure, they can go to my profile, send me a connection request, or follow me. I don't post a lot of content. That is a 2023 goal of mine. I used to, and then I had my father had a stroke, and we had memory care and selling houses. And I got away from it, and LinkedIn punished me for it. So you got to build that thing back up again. So following me, you'll see the content, but actually connecting with me, we can actually build a relationship. So
Yeah,
send
cool.
me a connection request, and it's Tracy Enos, Enos. And you are in the right profile. When you see the background photo, it says it's purple. And it says the ultimate LinkedIn profile checklist, which I'm going to give you guys as a freebie for anybody who wants that 30-point profile checklist, which I got to update because LinkedIn put some new stuff and took some stuff away. And you just go to the ultimateprofilechecklist.com, put your name in there, and you'll get emailed the checklist.
Perfect.
I love it.
Yeah,
We'll put that in the description for sure.
Absolutely. Well, Matt,
Yeah,
thank
Ben.
you for coming too, man.
I appreciate it, Ben.
Every time you're here, I'm glad you are.
Bright and sunshiny.
Hey guys, wherever you're listening to this on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Deezer, any of those platforms, make sure you hit that follow button. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit that red subscribe button, that bell right beside it, get notified when we drop a new episode. Go check us out at brokerpreneurpodcast.com. Check out all the cool things that we have. We have Brokerpreneur Not So Secret Societies every single Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. They're absolutely free for every broker in the world to attend. We would absolutely love to see you there. If that's something that you would like to attend, I'll put that link in the description down below. Just register and we'll send you a Zoom link and you can show up. So, Matt.
Yep, Ben.
We do this for one reason and one reason alone. Tell them why that is.
Because we just want to be part of your win, guys.
See ya.
See ya.